Gene Hackman plays a private detective tasked with finding a missing girl. Along the way, his own marital problems cloud his judgment as he tries to put the pieces together. This one has a unique structure and strong characters, so join us as we discuss Night Moves. Welcome everyone to the Collector's Cut. I am Peter, and joining me as always is David.
You told me about your erect nipples.
This is a movie podcast, and we are working our way through 70s thriller season, and today we are looking at another Gene Hackman film. We're looking at Night Moves from 1975. Yes. So we're in the middle of the decade right now, and he is a PI. He is tasked with finding a missing teenage girl, and that is the premise of the film, pretty much. Also, he's having marital problems. I guess I'll throw that in as well as the general premise, which is a big part of it.
It's pretty early on.
That is the film we're looking at today. One that I didn't really know much about until I went looking for 70s thrillers for the season, but it stuck out for a couple of reasons. One was Gene Hackman, of course. The other was director Arthur Penn, who I didn't know by name, but when I clicked on him and it said Bonnie and Clyde, I went, oh, I have seen one of his films at least then. He's done a few other things that are notable. Little Big Man, which I've not seen, but yeah, he's got a few things to his name. And yeah, so we'll dive in. We'll start spoiler free. We'll give you a warning before we get into the spoilers. And of course, if you're enjoying the show on YouTube, please do it at the like button. It helps us out a bunch if you do, or give us 5 stars on the podcast platform you're on. But of course, if you want to support the show, you can do that via Patreon or YouTube membership and get some bonuses. But I'll tell you more about that at the end of the episode. So yes, premise has been laid forth. I assume, David, that you hadn't seen this or heard much about it beforehand?
Nope. This is a complete, to the point where I was trying to rent this off YouTube in order to watch it properly. And as I typed in Night Moves, I got some country song or album or something like that for the first 20 results until finally it got to the movie. So clearly this isn't one that is hugely popular in the public space either.
Quick trick, just put out the year of the movie after the
Yeah, well, that's what I did. Clearly, I got there, Pete. I didn't just watch a country album for the entire time.
It's just a quick solution to that, is you throw in the year and it'll know what you're doing.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, it could just be that country album is very popular.
Possible.
Particularly,
not with me. I couldn't care less about country music. I don't care who I alienate.
Well, the entire planet outside of America doesn't care about country music. There's a reason why Shania Twain changed all of her songs for every other country, because everyone else hates country music. But
Did
there
she?
you go.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, well, so this is a weird tangent, but just a couple of years ago, I found out there's an American version of That Don't Impress Me Much, and I listened to it, and I'm like, what is all this country twang? This wasn't in the song. And it turns out the entire album was remixed with more synth and dancey stuff for Europe and other territories. So
we got stuck with country version Shania Twain. You got a weird Europop version?
Yep.
Wow.
And that was the version that played on music channels, radio, everything. The country version was a weird anomaly. It was what the hell is this?
That is strange.
But yes, so smart business move, because she was aware that everyone else was going to hate country music. So that's how she was a hit all over the world. Anyway, David, what did you think of Night Moves?
Oh yeah, that's a movie. I found myself very engaged with this one. I think I was, after we did Laughing Policeman, Long Goodbye, I was feeling a little bit detached from this season. I was thinking that there was, we'd already hit the greatness of Clute and French Connection. And don't get me wrong, Gene Hackman, he's great as an actor. He was drawing me in regardless, but I was feeling a little detached going in. And as the movie progressed, it did a good job of enforcing these character relations, keeping the plot interesting. I never quite knew where it was going at any given point. Honestly, there's a point where I felt like they had wrapped up the entire plot, and I was like, what are they going to do now? And then they kind of take it in a totally different direction, but it's still an interesting plot in its own right. So writing-wise, I think it's very well done. I think acting-wise, it's well done. I honestly don't have much to really fault this movie for. The only thing that I could criticize it a little bit for, besides one thing that's just questionably legal, outside of everything else. The only thing I could really criticize it for is that when that sort of mid-movie pivot happens, where it decides that it wants to do a different sort of plot, it does kind of come out of nowhere. It does feel very disjointed with what came before, but ultimately it's still interesting in its own right. So it's two halves of a movie, both interesting, but I'd say in general, I like this one. I think it would be worth checking out in the general sense.
Yeah, I had a good time with this. I think early on it kind of captured me because it was very confident direction. It was doing lots of little subtle things, but without being flashy. There was lots of little moments in the character writing that was kind of revealing certain things about certain characters that wasn't being, shoved down my throat, but also was clearly there. So there was a lot of like growth and stuff. Like the actual the conversations, like just the initial meeting with Gene Hackman's character, Harry, and like the mother who's like hiring him to like track down her missing teenage daughter. That conversation just was full of little exchanges that just told you so much about who she is as a character, maybe implies what the daughter's like as a character, says some things about how Harry tackles things. Like there was so much just to unravel just from that one conversation. And that was the scene where I was like, and nothing was wrong before that scene, but that was the scene where I really felt like, oh, I think this movie might actually be really solid. It's just from that point on, it was like, okay, where's the plot going to go? And I think what's interesting is that there is like a pivot, like you say. I definitely felt that as well. I felt like the movie is like, okay, clearly something's about to like almost be a new inciting incident because we're kind of winding down everything that was there. But weirdly though, I actually think it's the masterstroke of the movie. Now, that isn't always the case. Sometimes when you do like a sort of pivot, like in the middle, it can feel a little bit weird. But I would argue that the incident that starts off the second half of the movie is actually such a good little shock value moment, and I won't even hint at what the thing is because I don't want to spoil anything. It just how sort of like out of nowhere it kind of comes up, and it kind of recontextualizes and it does, like everything that happened in the first half matters. You only care, it's only a shock to the system because you've spent the first half of the movie doing whatever. And to be fair, like the first half of the movie is a character drama. I mean, it's really the second half that turns it into a thriller. Almost to the point where like 40 minutes in, I was thinking, oh, this is pretty good. I don't know if it's really that much of a thriller, but it's pretty good. And then the second half completely took us into that territory. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Trust the movie, it's going places. But no, performances were good, characters were rich. The only real things I could critique is that it has a little bit of that thing near the end that I think some of these other movies have had bigger problems with, which is that they'll throw around some names and I've forgotten who that is, but by the time you bring that name back up, like, so there's a little bit of that. But to be honest, the big thing for me was just how effective a couple of moments were in revealing a certain piece of information, where even if there was some details that hadn't quite clicked in my head yet, there was like moments that felt impactful. Like I was like, oh, I'm surprised how much I cared about that reveal. It actually hit because they filmed it in a really, confident, effective way to make it feel like a dramatic reveal, or make a small moment of dialogue feel like a hit, like a hammer. And that level of deft touches, that craft throughout, was constantly elevating what this is. At its center, it's so it's about his character, it's about Harry, the Gene Hackman character, but everything around it is pretty deftly handled, to be honest. So I'm happy to say I like this much more than the last two we did, which were Laughing Policeman and Long Goodbye. This was better than both of those by a reasonable margin.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't think I would put this up on the same level as Clute and French Connection. I think that it is still a noticeable grade below, but it is so far above the most recent two we did just because of that level of keeping engagement, keeping me interested in the characters and keeping me interested in all of these things that are happening in a way that the other ones, it just felt like a slog by the time that we were done with the other ones. This one, as we were coming into the end, it was so well paced and so just snappy in the way that it was getting stuff out the door that I never felt like I was sitting there like, all right, come on, the movie's got to be over soon.
I think that scene I mentioned earlier, that first time he goes to meet the mum and gets the case early on. That scene was so promising to me because all I could think was just how boring all of the investigation, like interview scenes were in the last two movies, and how much I was just begging for something to like grab my attention. And this conversation, it's still just a conversation. It's still just him asking for details, but there's just so much revealed, and it's like constantly, like, it knows exactly how much it's revealing, how it's doing it, and it's doing some of it via subtext, where it's like not what they say sometimes, it's what's not being said, and it all felt like it was advancing the story, building to the characters, and that's like what makes you feel engaged, as opposed to Laughing Policeman last week, where we're doing like dead ends and people are just talking about things that never matter later on, and it doesn't matter who that character was because they're never going to come up again. So yeah,
that's the thing. I think going into this, the character, the mother that is hiring him for finding the teenage daughter, she's such an engaging character that I think you just subconsciously know this isn't something that's going to be thrown away. This is something that is going to be interesting throughout. And because we never, honest to God, I can't think of anything in the first even like 45 minutes that feels like it is a departure from that story. Like, yeah, we get some stuff with the marriage problems or whatever, but that just feels like character development. It doesn't feel like its own separate plot. So honestly, it stays so laser focused the whole time. And anytime that it goes to a new location or a new character or anything like that, it is directly following a previously established character or location, telling us that we have to go into that new place.
Yeah. So, no, I'm pretty positive on it, I think. And, you know, a big part of that is the cast. I mean, Gene Hackman's obviously the star, and he pretty much knocks it out of the park, to be honest. There's so many little... You know, this is definitely a more nuanced character than his French Connection character, who's, you know, this more hot-headed type character. This is a character who's a lot more... Like, he's got issues, but like he's still not really sure what his issues are. They're kind of like coming to the forefront, and it's very much like, you know, a journey of discovery for himself, which I guess is the big difference between this and French Connection. In French Connection, I won't spoil anything, but that character himself is not really paying attention to who he is as a person. We're learning throughout the movie, but he isn't. This movie, it feels like this character is actually being introspective. He's thinking about the choices he's made, like what's motivating him. He's, you know, what mistakes he's made, that kind of thing. Like he's constantly thinking about that, and it's eating at him, and it's doing these things. So it's a very different type of character, and therefore a very different performance. So if you like Gene Hackman, it's a very different type of character to watch from him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I before we started this show, I've said it before, I barely had any exposure to Hackman, and now I think I'm on like film 3, 4, maybe even 5 of his, and I get it. He's very good at what he does. He's a very solid actor pretty much anytime he steps up to bat.
I mean, if we're counting the 2 Superman, or 3 Superman movies he's in, actually.
Yeah, so 6 maybe. 6 or 7.
On then, yeah. But I assume you'd seen those before, in some respect.
The Superman ones, I can't remember what I said in the beginning of the episode. Most of them were caught on cable, just bits and pieces.
Okay. All right, but you were more exposed to them than you were Poseidon Adventure or French Connection or this.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, we have other actors sprinkled through it. There's some that I recognized. There's a young James Woods in here, for however you feel about him. There's also not young, but young in the sense that he's younger than I've ever seen him before. There's a character, I don't want to spoil who he is, but Harris Yulin plays a character, and I recognize him because he had a small role in a couple episodes of Buffy. The hit television show, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, for those of you who are keeping track. I
almost didn't recognize it without you clarifying.
I know. So yeah. And also, the teenage girl that's missing is played by Melanie Griffith, who, to be honest, I wasn't sure. I've heard the name before. I wasn't sure if I'd ever seen her or anything. Turns out I have. She's in a Brian De Palma film that I really like, which we'll definitely do someday, called Body Double. But it's just one of those things where, like, okay, I've heard that name, and it's almost like I've heard the name because it's the sort of name that, like, characters in a sitcom might reference from a certain time period.
Right.
And that's why I think I know her name. It's not because, like, I know her specifically, but
yeah. Like, I'm looking back through, it seems like she was really big in like early 80s, late 70s sort of period, and that's exactly what that sort of sitcom reference would be, where it's like, oh yeah, Melanie Griffith is a new movie and it's definitely steamy, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think Working Girl was the other one on our IMDb page from like later in the 80s that was like relatively well known. So yeah, yeah, and I recognize a couple other people like Kenneth Mars. Like I've seen his face before. I'm used to him having facial hair, but he's in there in a small role. Edward Binns, I've definitely seen his face before. So you know, there's a few recognizable faces throughout. There's a lot of people that I don't recognize in here. You know, it's like, cause sometimes we do these 70s movies, it's like, oh, here's like 8 people we saw in like disaster movies in this time period or other thrillers, but not too many of them popping up in this one.
Nope. It's, I mean, every once in a while you're going to have a movie where they can get the one really big guy of Gene Hackman and then the rest of them are just going to be whatever they can fill in with. And I'm not saying this is a cheap movie. I'm not saying that they were trying to save money there, but it seems like they weren't too worried about it being completely filled to the brim with A-listers.
I mean, that's probably true. I also think that I wouldn't be dismissive of the rest of the cast, though. I think this is just like more of a case of they're not as known to us because maybe there were more, you know, like, because for some of them, they're already older actors, so they were probably like working through the 40s, 50s, 60s, the 70s. So we're less likely to know them very well. Obviously, the couple that are young, like James Woods, is the one we go, oh, we know him because he was in his creepy prime like a good decade or two after this. So,
right,
you know, that is what it is. Not a whole lot to say on music. There's like a theme that plays at the start and end, but it's very, you know, low key, like almost nothing throughout the rest of the movie. You know, a couple of diegetic songs here or there, but nothing in the way of just score and soundtrack.
Yeah, I will say I did like the soundtrack, though. Anytime it did play, it felt very suited towards the vibe of the movie. It didn't feel like it was just some guy trying to throw together a score and he has no idea what he was doing. It felt very intentional.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, everything in the movie does feel very intentional. You feel like, because that's the thing, when it's doing scenes early on where it's introducing characters, you feel like it's seeding things. It's not just putting things in for little quirks. It's like, no, this is a seed for later. Whether it be for a plot thing or a character turn later or whatever it may be. So, I mean, I'm quite happy with it overall. I guess there's maybe like one plot thing that felt like a little on the nose set up early on that I didn't expect to be a thing that paid off near the end, and it kind of did. And I was like, okay, that was a bit maybe too cute, but everything else I was quite happy with.
I get what you're saying, but I also think because they draw so little attention to it, it is, for any other audience, kind of just a throwaway, like, no big deal sort of line.
I just don't think that needed to be set up. We could have got it in the context when it mattered later on, you know?
Yeah, probably.
So, hey. But other than that, I really have not really much to complain about. So, quite happy. I mean, I think we're probably ready to get into the spoilers then and start talking about the film.
Yeah, I would say this is one of those ones that if you have any interest in it, probably check it out before we start talking about it in any meaningful regard here, because as much as the twist does not like define this movie, like the different things it goes through, I still think it's worth checking out without any extra stuff in front, just for maximum enjoyment value.
It definitely went in turns that I did not expect before they happened, but they felt. I mean, earned is a weird word, but like it felt like everything that happened after the turn was enhanced because of everything we did before the turn. So it didn't feel like it was just like, oh, just a weird nonsense left turn for the sake of a left turn. It was like, no, we spent time making you care and thinking about the characters in certain ways so that when we turn in this direction, there's a kind of new underlying context to all of it going forward, particularly for the main character more than anyone else. But
yeah, I mean, but like more specifically what I'm saying though is that this is not, you're still going to get some enjoyment out of this movie, even if you know what the twists and turns are, but I think you'll get more out of it if you go in it blind. Sure. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah. So we'll say spoilers then for Night Moves, and we will get into it. So again, spoilers for Night Moves. Can I just say, before we get into any real plot stuff, there's a part in this movie where the phrase night moves is actually said. However, it would be spelled with a K. And I was like, oh, you cheeky movie. You're doing some double meanings here with this.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Yeah,
it's clever. Yeah,
it's when he's showing the chest. He says, oh, there's like 3 night moves. And I went, he said the title. He said the title technically.
Oh man, I wasn't even like, at a certain point I was just like, all right, night moves. It's just all this stuff that goes under the cover of dark. I wasn't even listening for the title. No,
well, it wasn't so much I was listening for the title, but I felt like the chess move, because he's basically talking about this old game from like the 40s or whatever, and he's like, oh, you know, like this guy had it won. There was this like 3 night moves he could have made that would have won the whole thing, but he didn't see it, so he made a different move and he lost. And you know, he'd been so obsessed thinking about it. Hell, I'm obsessed thinking about it, and I wasn't even born yet, and must have been early in the 40s actually, because Gene Hackman was definitely born by then. But
it was 1922.
There you go.
Game.
There you go.
Yep.
So the rest of the movie, I was like, okay, he just explained his entire character. Like that description of there was a move that he didn't see, and then he spent his life regretting it. That's the character. Like, that's everything he did from that point on. I had that in the back of my head and thinking, okay, how does this fit into that metaphor?
No, yeah. As soon as he started describing the metaphor, where he's like, he could have finished the game, he could have wrapped it all up right there if he had seen this thing, but instead he did something else and ended up not being able to. I was like, cool. Now I'm going to be reading the story through that lens. What is the thing that he's going to have missed that could have ended this much earlier?
Yeah, or what did he already miss? You know, like it's just like, you know, is it already happened? Has he already made the mistake, or is he still to make the mistake?
Right.
So no, I that was a neat little scene, and it's almost bang in the middle of that scene as well. So it's like it really kind of flips things, because as much as we said there's a pivot point, the pivot point's a little after the halfway point. It's like, you know,
I mean, this movie's an hour and 40 minutes. If we're both thinking the pivot point is the same place, it is an hour and 10 minutes in.
Yeah, so it's a good. It's more like 2/3 into the movie than halfway, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, the movie just starts very kind of quietly. It's just him arriving at his office, checking his giant answering machine because it's 1975. But, you know, there's no like preamble. He gets the case that's going to be the setup of the movie. It's like, hey, there's this woman I've got, you know, I recommended you, go and see her, blah, 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 blah. And that's basically it. And obviously there's a scene where he goes to see his wife at her work, and that sets up some character stuff. But, like, the movie starts pretty straightforward. It doesn't do anything super flashy, and it just kind of gets into it. And I guess the bigger thing is maybe the scene with the wife, because that gives you a bit more character that was going to deconstruct as the movie goes on.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the wife stuff, that's literally both sides of the thing here, is that it gets the point across that he is very busy, and because he's very busy, he's had some conversations with his wife about selling his private, or like quitting out of his private eye business, which is just him, and joining a larger agency. And he doesn't want to do that because he says how bored out of his mind he would be because of it all. But you can sense that there's just, as much as they are a very nice couple to each other, as much as they are seemingly very much still in love or whatever, there's just that little bit of tension, that little bit of something, especially as she says, by the way, I'm going to see a movie with Charles tonight. And I'm like, oh, who's Charles?
Well, Charles, I don't think is the problem. Charles is the guy she works with, who is implied later on to be gay.
Yes.
There's another man that ends up going, though, instead of the husband, which is more of a problem. You know, he says, no, how do I go? But no, like, when he comes in, though, she's on the phone and he starts basically fondling her, and she's just sort of giggling, like, or trying to hold back the giggles as he's doing it. So it's like, it does present, to begin with, as a fairly, like, still loving, romantic relationship, which I think is partly to maybe, again, set up this idea that, like, he's not seeing something that's there and he's still acting this way. But I think maybe the bigger reason for it, more than anything, is so that we as the audience can be a bit more surprised when he catches her in the act. You know, when he goes to pick her up from the movie theater, she doesn't know he's coming, and he sees her with this other guy that she gets into a car with and starts kissing. You can see it clearly, and he takes down the license plate number, and it's like, okay. Maybe the more telling thing, though, for me, I mean, that stuff's so well shot. All the shots of him looking across at night and, like, almost walking up and then, like, deciding to back off, all that stuff's good. But it's when they're back at home and she arrives like sometime later and he's just sitting miserable. And she comes up and she tries to make small talk and be like, oh, I'm going to make some cocoa. Do you want some? Blah, blah, blah. And he's just giving one word answers. But he does specifically say, oh, how was the movie? And like basically just opens a platform for her to lie. Because then she sort of lies and says, oh, after the movie, we went for a bite to eat. And it just, like, again, this was like a good moment of performing because like his face, the moment she said that lie, where she specifically lied about what she did after the movie, just, you know, it really worked. It really sold kind of his pain and like resentment in the moment.
Well, I mean, we'll get to it, but when we get deeper into his character and the way that he behaves around being confronted with like these hard truths or whatever, I think that this is such a great moment to then look back on.
Yeah.
And you get to see exactly how anytime that he's faced with these difficult choices, the things that would rock his life to the core, he kind of always just lets it happen. He's very passive in that way. He's just like, whatever's going to happen is what's going to happen here. I'm not really going to force the issue as much as anything else.
He doesn't make the moves.
Yes, correct. He doesn't see them as a possibility.
I mean, just to stick with this marriage side of things before we get into the main plot, you know, he decides to go to the guy's place because he's obviously checked the license plate and got an address. And he, like, you know, this guy's walking with a cane and he comes up and he's like, oh, I'll help you with your groceries. But then he's like, oh, by the way, I'm Ellen's husband. And it becomes this awkward, like, oh, you found out. She finally told you. And he's like, nope. Like, I saw you. Yeah. I haven't spoken to her yet. And he's like, well, why did you come to me?
And that just boils down more into the character, where it's this idea of, like, I don't want to know her reasons. I don't want to know. I just want to be angry at something right now, and you're something to be angry at. Yeah,
I mean, that's basically how it plays. And when he does... You know, because she comes home and obviously the boyfriend, I guess we'll call him, like he's obviously told her, oh, your husband was here today, he knows. When she comes in and he's like just sort of in the kitchen doing whatever, you know, like she tries to, you know, why didn't you talk to me about it? And he says, I didn't want to give you a chance to lie. You know, I wanted to hear the truth. And you know, they kind of blow up a little bit, and it's kind of an interesting reaction from her because it's like she's clearly guilty. Right, she's obviously not proud necessarily of this, but at the same time, this scene very quickly turns into her chastising him for how he's handling it, as opposed to him being mad at her for having an affair, which is an interesting dynamic. And he even kind of points it out, and it kind of says maybe something about him, because if he's letting the conversation turn that way, and maybe also points to why she's maybe strayed, is because there are these tensions about how he handles himself with her, and maybe how absent he is. That's something that's maybe more explored later, but like this idea that he's always busy with the case and he's always, you know, because I guess the whole thing with like him like maybe like selling his office and just becoming part of a larger firm or changing his job entirely, like she thinks, oh, that's more stability, that's a good idea, and you wouldn't be like on your own the whole time. And he's kind of like, yeah, but like it's just collecting information, it's so boring. Like, and she kind of points out in a couple of different scenes, like, but yeah, you feel like you have to be the one solving something. You have to be the one finding the answer, even when it's not actually that thrilling or the case you're on. Like, you know, he brings it up later that half the cases he gets are like, you know, couples who are suspecting their spouses having an affair. So he's like waiting with the camera to catch them in the act, which maybe adds more insult to the fact that his wife's doing that exact thing right now.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's kind of why he doesn't want to take the other job, is that the implication is from here, he gets, from beginning to end, he gets to know everything about it. He gets to see the person's suspicions, get to know why they're suspicious, go into the thing, see what the other person is doing. He gets the full story. But if he goes for this other job, it's implied that basically he's going to be told without any sort of context, go follow this person, take some pictures. He's not going to be as fully aware of the whole story. And I think that's something that, from a character perspective, that he treasures really deeply, is he wants to know the entire story. And whenever he doesn't have that, it just eats away at him.
Yeah, but one of my favorite details of like when he goes to talk to the boyfriend is the boyfriend says, she's told me a lot about you, about how your parents abandoned you as a child, and you tracked them down when you were a PI later. And this is something that when he is driving off to go to Florida as part of the case in a little bit, and she comes up and is like, hey, can you stay? Why push this off for a day so we can like talk about this? And like she's trying to get him to have the big conversation, try and work through this, whether that means ending in a divorce or ending in reconciliation. It's not really about the destination, it's more that they have to have these serious conversations. And he turns and says, why did you have to tell him about my father? It's almost like, it's not just that you're having an affair, you've told him private things about me that clearly probably doesn't like talking about very much, and it's probably very personal that he's even told her these things.
Well, I mean, then the immediate reveal directly after that is that he lied about it to her. Like, he made up a story because what actually personally happened was too deep of a cut into his character. It was something that he was ashamed of.
It's not immediate, that's much later in the movie.
Oh, is it? I thought that was the sequence where they were talking about it.
No, it's when they're lying in bed after they've had sex later, where he starts opening up about that, and she's like, wait, you never told me this. So
I just must have conflated that scene you were talking about into that scene, because I knew it happened in the bed, but I thought that's where that happened.
No. Like, he just drives off. Like that scene ends in a more cold note where, I mean, she just says that, oh, I was trying to like describe you to myself. It's like she's trying to like still convince herself of the man she fell in love with, the man she married, kind of thing. But yeah, and so it leaves kind of cold there when he goes off to Florida, which is probably a good time to backtrack and talk about the case, because we said a lot before in the spoiler-free section about the first meeting with the mom, who used to be an actress in Hollywood because they're in LA, and the daughters ran off. And I love those. One of my favorite moments in the whole movie is he's like, oh, what do you think she's off doing, or what is she like, whatever. And she's like, oh, she stays out all night, all the time. I didn't really think of it as much, but it's been 2 weeks. She's probably doing drugs and getting laid. And she kind of chuckles as she says that. And Gene Hackman says, wait, is she? And there's just the way the mum kind of like hesitates and then laughs as she says 16, as if like, oh, don't judge me.
I agree. I love the way she says it, because she laughs, she chuckles, she says it, and then like, there's not even a beat. She just immediately runs into the next sentence. She's like 16. So, I mean, are you going to take the case? Is that something we can see with this? And it's just like, let's not focus on that. Let's not look at me being a bad parent. Let's just move on to the next part.
Yeah, and, she's willing to and we find out some of these things kind of scattershot, but just to sum it up here, she's been married multiple times. The first husband was the girl's dad. Deli's the girl, right? Not Dolly, Deli. That always throw me off throughout the movie.
It's probably short for something, but I couldn't tell you.
Dolores, maybe?
No, that would work.
It's the only name I can think of that starts with Del for a woman.
Hold on. What is Deli short for?
Delilah?
I see Adeline, Delilah, Adelaide, or Dolores. So one of them.
Okay, fair enough. So she was married a couple times, and then the first husband, and this is something I think we find out because Gene Hackman gets like I don't know if it's like a medical records tape, but he's listening to it in the car, and it's like describing this guy's like life and career and medical issues, and the fact that how'd you go?
He 100% gets the exposition tape. Like that. Yeah. That is just like, we need to show a driving scene and get some information at the same time. Here we go.
Do you know what? I'm not against it, because him driving at night was so moody listening to this tape. It was at least a chill way to get the exposition. I wasn't mad at it.
I agree. However, it doesn't do anything bad. However, a lesser movie would put something plot critical in that, and I think most people may not have picked up on it. This one, I don't think it did. I got everything I needed, but I think any plot critical aspects in there could have been completely glossed over by an audience.
No, I think the important thing is that because the mum was cheating around and whatever else, he like divorced her, took her out his will, and gave everything in his will to Deli. However, it wouldn't be given to her till she turns 25. So she's only 16 just now, so obviously she's got a bit of time left before she gets all that money. But I think the mom's still getting just some alimony, I guess.
Whatever. I don't know if it's alimony after, because he died, so I don't know if it's something different at that point. But
yeah, whatever you call it. But I think she's done some sort of, spouse. I mean, they got divorced, so I don't know if his death would. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, but like as the trustee, as the person who's taking care of this trust, there's some sort of money for her to take care of it. Yeah,
like an allowance. Yeah, this is for keeping the daughter safe until she's 25, and then you're cut off. Right. Yeah. And she had like another husband as well after that, a stepdad who does come into the plot later, who's also like kind of separated from her now. Although I think they're still married though, because she still got his name based on that. But
no. She said they're broken up now, but she just decided to keep his name because why not?
Why not?
Yeah,
why not?
I think it has something to do with their acting career because he is to some extent involved in the movies. Like he's not actually in on the movies, but he's somehow related to it.
I think he was a stuntman as well at some point.
Yeah,
in his earlier career. I think that's how he kind of came about with her. But she's dropping references to like, oh, I was just I wasn't very talented, but I made sure I got parts with the right men. Like it was she's very openly, and she literally says, this made me laugh out loud actually, where she looks at a photo of herself and says, I had fantastic tits.
No, that scene ends in the most awkward way, which is like, I have fantastic tits. And like, she just kind of muses on them for like a minute or so. And then Gene Hackman, who's just sitting there taking notes or whatever, he's like, it looks like Deli didn't take far behind you. And the mom's just like, anyway.
Yeah, it would almost be like a creepy thing for him to say, except his reaction to everything else she said has been very appropriate, I think, as far as the audience is concerned. Like he's reacting, it's almost like he's poking fun at her for like, okay, if you want to keep talking like this, I'm going to say something inappropriate to snap you back to reality.
It's someone who makes all the sort of like offbeat, off-color jokes, and then the moment you chime in, it's just like, excuse me? How dare you?
Yeah, and he gets a bit of intel. Oh, she's got a friend named Quentin. That's who James Woods ends up being. So he goes out to look for him. But now this scene was very well done because he got so much character from the mom. Like every question felt relevant and felt like it was planting a seed for later for how the daughter acts. And as we find out, as we talk to more people who know this girl, she apparently is having sex with any older man she sees. Like she will seduce everyone that she comes across.
Yeah, when it first started, I was expecting it to be kind of like a Laura Palmer sort of thing, where it's like everyone has a different opinion on her, but no, everyone, as we talk to more people, everyone agrees. It's like, nah, she's a wild child and she has a bunch of daddy issues.
In fact, when Gene Hackman eventually does kind of get close to her and like immediately like there's a reference to her just having sex with whoever, he just kind of turns to the other women in the scene and goes, she's very liberated, isn't she? That was the word he used.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, investigation. He goes to speak to Quentin, who's a mechanic who does work on movies as well. He like works on the cars and planes and things like that, on stunt scenes in movies and that sort of thing. And reveals that he's got a black eye and like a busted up lip or whatever because he got into a fight with a stuntman who it seems Deli stayed with. They were on a movie shoot together. Deli was also kind of working around as like a stunt actress or whatever. And I'm not sure she was doing, I think she was just hanging around. I don't think she was in the job at all. Well, later on she is. So I was backdating that from later. But yeah, maybe she was just hanging around the movie set. But she was kind of hitting off with a stuntman, led to a bit of a kerfuffle, and that's the last he saw of her, and that was a couple of weeks ago. So Gene Hackman's next stop in the case is to go to the movie set and start intermingling with people there. Yeah, I love in this Quentin scene, like he, it does a good job of setting it up for the audience of who are our suspects, who's going to be the guy we want to pay attention to here. And Quentin comes out the gate of saying, like, she's a total bitch, and I would be happy if you hit her with a truck. And it's like, all right, well, you're probably suspect A at this point. Well, I thought, actually, just a quick correction. The truck line was not for her. It was for the stuntman that she
was it?
Hooked up with, yes.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Regardless, I stand by my point that I'm pretty sure he wasn't a fan of her.
Yeah, but what's so good about this scene, though, is that this is after Hackman's already aware that his wife's cheating on him. So when this guy says something like that about the, he's like, he can almost relate to the guy in the scene, even though he's been a bit rough to get the information out of him. He can kind of relate to why he feels pissed off. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going through a similar thing, kind of attitude.
You just imagine if he just like opened up his heart a little bit more, if Quentin just like shed a tear, Hackman would have hugged him, just been like, I know, I get it, it's okay.
So we meet some characters at the movie set. We meet the hotshot kind of stuntman who's flying the plane, who is older than Deli, obviously. He's not quite as old as her mum. However, he's had sex with both of them. So which is why I'm specifying that he's in the middle somewhere in there.
Yeah, he's a creep.
Oh,
he's like
his laugh.
Yes.
So there's a scene at the movie set where Hackman's mostly talking to like the stunt coordinator guy who's like an older dude, played by Edward Binns. His name's Joey Ziegler. But when we get a bar scene afterwards where he's sitting down and talking to the actual stuntman character, who I think is Marv Ellman, this guy is just laughing. He's like, oh yeah, I mean, Deli didn't know this, but I made it with her mum a few times, and being with a mum and a daughter, it makes you feel alive. And he sort of goes, heh, 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 heh. And he does that laugh like 5 times in the scene.
He does it on the inhale, which makes it worse. So whenever he's doing just, it's like, no, stop. That's, God, you're gross.
And he literally leaves the scene because he's like, oh, there's a woman at the bar who needs someone like me to buy her a drink. And walks off, and I'm like, okay, like, you say she just left, and you know what, I believe you, but still, somehow you're going to turn out to be guilty of something, right? Somehow. Because this is the thing, keep in mind, this entire time, we're talking about multiple older men at this point who have had sex with this 16-year-old, right? That's what we're talking about here. So there's a little bit more to the scene where Hackman's talking to the stunt coordinator, and they're kind of like, being casual with each other, and this young guy kind of bumps into the table with his girlfriend and jokes about it, and the stunt coordinator kind of loses his temper and like pins him to the table and like sort of demands him to taste the drink so he knows what to buy him again. But then afterwards he calms down. He's like, okay, why did I react to that way? And he goes up to the young guy and he's like it's all right, forget about it. But it's just that, like, obviously I'm kind of thinking of the ending here, but it's really going out of its way to make this guy feel like, okay, he's flawed, but he's very friendly with Hackman. He seems to be this old timer who's like, been in the business a long time. He's worked with all these young people, and he's got his own issues, but he's a decent guy, right? Which is obviously setting stuff up for later.
I think one of the things that he says in that conversation kind of puts it to, he feels himself aging out of his like previous stunt work, his stunt roles and everything like that. And he talks about he has 2 ex-wives, they have alimony, all this extra stuff. And he just like, he's upset at his current situation. That's why he reacts so badly to this kid. He calls him a kid. He's like, why did that kid get to me so badly there? And I think it's just kind of this little subtle disdain for the next generation coming up that's kicking him out.
Yeah, and actually, I never really thought about it till now, but like, he did kind of set up why he would need money in that scene. Like, he doesn't really like dwell on it too much. It's like a quick comment about the 2 wives with the alimony, but it's just it's there to piece together later if you want to. So very neat. But
and then the next scene is them going out the next morning. Quentin is fixing a plane that the stuntman was driving on, and once again making himself suspect A. He's like, man, this plane is busted. Like, it's so messed up. And they're like, well, when can you fix it? It's like, well, if that stuntman guy's using it, it's ready right now. He can jump in. Go ahead.
And he also gives Hackman a bit of a glare as he's leaving, which felt very fishy as well. So, all right. But anyway, the information he found, though, is possibly Florida, right? He's got like a little bit of detail where he has a hunch that she's went to her stepfather in Florida because that's where he's living.
He goes back to the mother who did the job and was just like, hey, that stuntman that you slept with, she did too. Like, I'm going to put money on the fact that your daughter hates you so much that she's basically trying to take away all of your conquests from you. And I'm betting, as creepy as it is, it's the stepfather is next.
That's his theory. Yeah, that's the theory, is that I think the way he phrased it is that he's even in the scoreboard, I think is the way he phrased it. And I, to be fair, I did like that as flippant as she is about everything with her daughter, she does get angry when she finds out that she slept with this stuntman that she's had a bit of a fling with. However, she doesn't get angry, like... I mean, she does get angry at him. He's like, oh, that, like, you know, creepy pervert bastard or whatever she says. But I did sort of stop and think about it. I was like, yeah, but like, which way round are you angry right now? Are you angry at him? What you're saying sounds like you're angry in the right way, that this man who's middle-aged has taken advantage of your teenage daughter. However, part of me suspects that you're actually angry that she stole him from you, and it's because it's because her entire character at this point is that she feels, you know, remorseful that she's not young anymore, that she's, you know, she's literally saying things like, oh, my tits used to be great, they were sure something, and now her daughter is stealing the men that she has you know, had conquest with.
And the daughter also obviously has all the money as well. Like, she has every reason to be jealous in every aspect of her daughter, being more youthful, having more money technically. Like, all of this is just more and more piling on of why she would have motive to do something.
Yep. But Hackman's like, hey, I'm going to go check in Florida on a hunch, and you're paying for it though, so it's up to you if I go. And she's like, all right, fine. So yeah, thenceforth setting up the Florida trip, which, you know, is a good chunk of the middle of the movie, is this this trip to Florida.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to see right now. I guess he took a plane because he's driving a different car when he gets there.
Yeah, rental, presumably.
It's implied that it's just driving. Like, they never show him in a plane.
No, they mention him flying.
Do they? Okay.
He says it to the mum in the scene. He says, I'm going to fly to Florida. He literally says it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And then and when he goes back to Florida at the end of the movie, he is at the airport, so he's definitely flying that time as well.
All right, fair enough. I just missed it.
So when he gets there, he goes to the stepdad's place, and he doesn't meet him, but he does meet Polly, Paula, sorry. Paula's this other character. Why are you laughing?
I'm just picturing Polly from Rocky.
Oh, right,
just
okay.
like, hey, what are you doing down here? Get out of here.
In my head, I was spelling it more Polly, which is making me think of, like, a bird, like Polly want a cracker.
Gotcha.
But fair enough, you went to Rocky.
That would work better. Yeah.
But yeah, so he meets her, and she's kind of an interesting character immediately, the way she talks to him. She's got a very kind of interesting backwards and forwards with him. But kind of like, you know, who are you? He's like, oh, I'm a private investigator. I'm looking for Deli. He's like, can you prove that? And he shows her ID, and it's like, oh, okay, fine. She's here. It's like, oh, excellent news. Where is she? Where's the stepdad? He's like, oh, well, he's out on the plane for the day, but, you know, you can follow me in your car and go come back to the house or whatever. And that sets us up.
She, as a job, it's kind of hard to tell what their jobs actually are, but it seems like her job has something to do of caring/breeding dolphins.
Yeah, it seems like she sells dolphins to people who want a dolphin.
Yeah, which I have to assume the 70s, we've made some changes since then, because I can't imagine this is still legal in any sense of the word.
I doubt it. But yeah, when they get back to the place, you know, he meets Deli. Doesn't tell her who he is to begin with. He just kind of goes up and says hello. And she is like just wearing nothing but a shirt, basically. It's very loose. It's like it's almost like she's begging for things to pop out to entice him because this is the moment actually where Paula even says, oh, she'll probably try and have sex with you before anything else. Like, that's probably the first thing she's going to do. And that's when he says the liberated line.
All right. So this is where I need to put on a little bit of is this movie too creepy in some aspects? And the only reason I say that is that Melanie Griffith, she plays a 16-year-old in this. Already, that's a problem. But the extra problem here is Melanie Griffith was a 16-year-old when this was filmed. Like, she was that age. And the bit that gets me is reading the IMDb trivia is that she was 16 when this was filmed in 1973. And it says, therefore, they waited 2 years for release. I don't think that makes it okay. I don't think that's how law works.
Well, it definitely doesn't make it okay now. I wonder if there was like a loophole or something that was closed at some point that
maybe.
Yeah, it feels weird. Why didn't you why wouldn't you just hire an 18-year-old to play the part?
Right. I mean, look, if she's a great actress, if she's like whatever, so be it. But like, I feel like you could have done everything you did in the movie with implications rather than as explicitly as it's shown.
Yeah, and she never does anything with anyone else, but there is nudity, right? You just see her topless. Right. In fact, you practically see her full frontal at one point. So, yeah, it is a bit. This to me just feels like such a different time where nudity was handled and considered very differently to what it is now.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, there's a sequence. It's the sequence where he gets back and he's talking to the wife again. She walks in and she's wearing just a sheer top, no bra, nothing else. And I'm like, was that just normal style in the 70s? Do you just go out wearing that?
To be fair, the wife was constantly not wearing a bra in this movie, so there was definitely a lot of that going on just in general in the 70s.
Yeah, but this was like a see-through top, and I was like, did you just walk here in that? Is that what happened?
Yeah. No, it's worth mentioning. But I don't know. It's a sort of thing where it's funny enough also a Gene Hackman movie, but it's kind of like young Clark Kent as a baby with these little winky hanging out at the start of that movie. You just kind of like, well, clearly they just thought it's nudity, just accept it. It doesn't have to be something that's, you know. Yeah,
they filmed that sequence when the kid was 4, but they had to wait 14 years to release the movie.
So it's just Christopher Reeve then. They just filmed him as a toddler and then waited till they shot the rest of the movie. It's a sort of thing like the Nirvana like album cover, Nevermind, right? Like, do you get away with that today? Is that allowed?
I mean, okay, but then there's the differentiation of obviously the album cover and the Clark Kent scene. Neither of those are implicitly sexualized.
No, that's a fair point.
Very sexualized, which is much different.
That's a very fair point, especially since we're talking about someone who's just underage, and therefore, like, people are looking very differently instead of like a newborn, effectively. So no, I mean, I would definitely say there should still be a harsh age limit on watching this movie because of this. Like, adults should watch this knowing the full context of it. I would not be, but I
mean, I don't know what the translation would be, but this is definitely an R rating in the US. I could never see that going beneath that. But I also think this is a decent time to mention that YouTube demonetizes things sometimes, so check out the Patreon.
I don't think any phrases we've used. I mean, unless the AI is getting that good, I don't think it's.
They might be. Who knows?
No. So, like, he goes over and talks to her, and she is immediately kind of like flirtatious, I would describe it. Like, she's immediately just kind of making eyes at him. He doesn't say who he is right away. He decides that he wants to talk to the stepdad first, and the stepdad sort of comes in and he's like, one of those planes that lands in the water, and he's kind of this jovial, constantly drinking dude, is best to describe him. But there's a line specifically, right? Because he's talking to him that night after he's had a few drinks.
Oh yeah,
right. And this legitimately is the funniest line in the movie, right? Where Gene Hackman explains who he is and that he's been hired to take the daughter back, and he's like, hey, I just need to know if you're going to give me trouble. And he's like, why would I give you trouble? He's like, well, technically you're still a guardian because you're a stepfather, which is what made me think they were still married, even if they're broken up, because otherwise why would he have any legal say on a step kid? But he's like, you could technically like veto this. If I went to the police with her, if she refuses and I have to like sort of do it forcefully, I need to do it via the police to do it all in the up and up. But you could step in and block that. And he's like, oh no. And to be honest, like, I kind of want you to take her back because, I kind of lose myself around her. I get too tempted and, woof, bad things happen. There should be a law. Oh, yeah. And Gene Hackman, as dryly as possible, just goes, there is.
Yeah. No, I love that sequence. You did kind of flip it. Maybe I misread the scene, but the bit that was getting me was that it wasn't him saying like, are you going to cause me trouble? It was like, hey, is she calling you any trouble? And she's like, what kind of trouble? And he's like, the kind of trouble that the cops would have a problem with if I went and told them. He
does ask that as well. He kind of like mixes in a couple of things, but there's definitely like that part of it there as well about him. Like, you could be a problem if you wanted to be.
Right.
But yeah.
But the moment he says like trouble you wouldn't want the cops knowing about, that's when he's like, yeah, you know what? Get her out of here. Yeah, don't even like, nah.
Yeah. So the implication is that he's already had sex with her at least a few times, and you know, because there's a legitimate question at one point that Hackman asked the other woman, Paula. He's like, "Hey, what's this setup here? Like, are you a couple and she's staying with you? Like, what's happening?" It's a valid question because I was like, yeah, like if he's having casual sex with a stepdaughter sometimes, and what's her role here exactly?
Look,
are they just co-workers?
There is a reason that even nowadays we all kind of want Florida to not be a U.S. state. We all kind of want to just cut it off and drift it out to sea.
Oh dear. So that night, like, Deli like tries to like make some moves. Like, she intentionally is in his room where he's going, because they've given him a little cabin to stay in. She's in his room. She's wearing his shirt, and she's trying to make some like insinuations and flirtations. And then Paula comes up and starts talking to him. And Hackman clearly is a bit more like infatuated with her. And keep in mind what he's going through at this point with his wife. He's like, oh, he's come down here and there's this attractive blonde lady who's making, you know, not just like comments to him, but like she's kind of like challenging him in a way with the dialogue, whereas like there's like a back and forth, there's a playfulness to it in a way that you can see why he would be enticed by her specifically. And Deli immediately just gets annoyed and is like, "Can I use your shower? Mine's not working very well." And he's like really kind of sharp with him after that fact.
Well, I mean, she still feels like she's still trying to put on the show. She's still trying to entice him over, and he's resolute. He is 100% like, "Look, I will be the first to admit," like he like glances over towards the shower area. He's like, "It's a sightseeing tour I'm here for, but I'm not going to get involved." Like, not at all.
Yeah, like it's not like he doesn't know. It's not like he's like not reacting at all to all the temptation, but he's very clearly like got a line in the sand where he's like, "No, I can control myself. I'm not going to do that. Thank you very much." But obviously the temptation for him is more Paula, which kind of develops as these scenes go on. Because Deli's not very happy when she finds out he's a PI who's came here to take her back to LA.
That is an understatement. Not very happy. She goes full force, like burning down everything.
Yeah, the full frontals later. The scene where she finds out, she does like take the shirt off very quickly, throws it down, and then puts on another top, and then hands him back his shirt. Goes, "There's your shirt back." And I was like, that was almost that scene from Arrested Development where she's like, "This is the last time you'll ever see these."
Well, no, I like the part afterwards where like he's basically got her cornered. She's off there, and she's just hurling insults at him. And then some other guy pops up being like, "Hey, Deli, is everything okay?" It's like, "No, this pervert is flashing me." And so then he has to get involved, to which Gene Hackman pulls out some kung fu to kick this guy off the pier.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that little moment. You're right. She does try and like do a false accusation just to get rid of him for a minute.
Yep.
So... yeah, there's a scene where they go out because they go out to the water. It's Hackman and Paula and Deli, and they're out in the water. He's like asking questions, and this also kind of gets into Hackman's character a little bit because he's asking Deli these questions about herself and her past, and she gets kind of frustrated and says, "Wait, are you asking these questions because you want to know these answers, or are you just asking them because you think that's what a detective is supposed to ask?" And he doesn't really have like an answer right away. And it does kind of feel like, yeah, maybe she's kind of clocked a bit of his personality here, that he's kind of going through the motions. But she lists off a bunch of things she used to do. Some of them, you know, less than savory. Some of them kind of normal. But, you know, it does kind of feel there's a little bit of bonding happening. And he's getting to know her a little bit. The big thing in this scene, though, is that Deli strips down and goes skinny dipping with some goggles on, and there's like a what do we call it, the window on the boat.
Yeah, it's a glass panel at the bottom of the boat, so they can.
I'm sure there's a name for it though.
Yeah, no, I had no idea what it would be, but I do like from a both story and cinematic perspective is that they have lights under this boat that like light up the immediate underside, and you can see it glowing from underside. It looks so good.
Yeah, from a film perspective, like this, because it's pitch black nighttime, looked great on the OLED, by the way, this scene, and the lights coming from under the boat looked really good, really cinematic. And she's like flipping them off from underneath because she's mad at him still. But she starts freaking out, and I thought she was getting attacked by a shark or something, the way she was like yelling in the water.
I mean, at this point, I thought it was still just her like doing something, trying to
entice him.
Like, yeah, entice him, do something to get him in the water with them. But we quickly find out, no, there is a legitimate reason here.
No, she's screaming because she found a crashed plane under the water with a dead body in the pilot seat. So Polly leaves like a marker for the quote-unquote Coast Guard. More on that later. But yeah, there's a plane's crashed here and they've left word. And when they go back to the house, Deli pisses off quite quickly.
Well, she's traumatized. Like everyone else is kind of just like moving past it. She is shaking. She is not okay from what she saw there, and she kind of just disappears.
I feel like the stepdad and Paula are just kind of starting to get drunk, and it feels like they've just like shrugged it off like it's nothing. Hackman feels like he's more serious, like he's still taking it seriously what they've found, but he's not traumatized in the way that Deli is. But a lot goes down this night though, because this is where Paula comes to him and tries to talk to him, and she's kind of drunk, and she says, hey, where were you when Kennedy was shot? And he's like, which one? And she's like, doesn't matter. So he tells the story for both, and then she's basically it's almost like a rebuttal to the questions he was asking her, because she's like, I only asked that because it's the questions everyone knows the answer to, and technically she's right. I wasn't born yet, so there's your answer.
It's the equivalent of where were you on 9/11, which oddly enough is the day we're filming this.
Is it?
I don't know if that's too far behind the curtain. It is 9/11, the day we're filming this.
Oh. I don't know, what do you say happy?
No, it's just a weird coincidence.
I don't think you do.
This is the day that is marked down on my cat's adoption papers as her birthday. Obviously, they just made it up, but I tend to look at it through that lens rather than anything else that may have happened.
Fair enough. So yeah, Hackman answers the questions and he goes to bed, but she comes storming back and says, and sort of reveals, no, I asked that question because it reminds me of this, blah blah blah. And then she starts just reminiscing about her past, and she's like, I remember the first boy who ever touched my breast. My nipple was erect for 30 minutes after.
It's a character opening up, and it's clearly very important in like a way that they are sharing some intimacy between each other.
It's not funny seeing it in the scene. No, but seeing it like written down and recounting it separately, separated from the visuals and all the emotional impact, it's a funny line. Yeah, because it's very moody. It's all very in shadows, and he very softly says, "That doesn't sound so bad." It sounds like you had a nice first encounter there. But and she kind of just keeps making small talk as he finally starts like fondling, which is clearly what she was wanting him to do. And the camera cuts away as things start getting intimate. I will say there's a trivia bit that apparently this scene was much more involved and much more intimate. It was supposed to be like an actual like love scene, not just a sex scene, but it got cut down significantly, and the writer like boycotted. The writer was super unhappy about that. It's funny because obviously, having seen the finished movie with it cut out, I don't know if they shot the full version or they trimmed it before they shot it, but I don't know if it needs to be a more involved. I mean, I think like knowing what Hackman's character is going through right now with the marriage and how he feels, and the fact that he's giving into this, and it feels like at least in the moment, like a sort of genuine one-to-one attraction. Obviously, there's some stuff later on that casts some doubts on that. I think it has a lot of impact for him like giving into it. I don't think you need to see like softcore porn to get that point across. I'd really have to see how it was portrayed, because the way that they say it here, it says in an interview, Jennifer Warren described the scene as, quote, intimate emotionally as well as physically. So if it really leaned into the emotional side of things, then I could see it better. But if it was kind of just more towards the softcore porn angle, I don't think that that's necessary for the movie. Yeah, I mean, I think the way that this is going to sound like a weird sentence to say, but a lot of it was like an extreme close-up of her nipple. It's sort of in silhouette as he was like, running fingers around and whatnot. Like, that already felt super intimate, and it felt like it got all the intimacy across that you needed to make it, to sell it to the audience. So I don't know if you needed any more than that. Yeah, I think the movie
functions just fine as it is. I just wonder whether it could be improved. I wonder if that scene was actually something that could have helped improve a bit of the depth of these characters.
Yeah, and then the flip of this is that whilst they're asleep, Deli screams from her cabin. So Hackman runs over there to see what's up with her. And, part of he's thinking, oh, is this another attempt? Is she going to try and seduce him after he's just had sex with the other woman? And and there is a moment where I thought, oh, maybe she was leaning into that, where, because he's patting her on the back to try and make her feel better, and he's just like, oh, I love being patted in the back like that. But to be honest, like, I mean, I never, don't get me wrong, I never got from him that he was thinking about going down any paths like that. No, but it was more just a question of, does she want that to happen, or is she genuinely just like a scared girl here who needs to be comforted because she's having nightmares because she saw a dead body? Because that's effectively what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, I think far more the latter, especially as it moves forward, is obviously she has some daddy issues here. She has some level where she needs like a caring male authority that isn't about sex. And this idea of him just patting her back, she even brings up the idea of how it's supposed to remind you of being like a newborn, of being patted on the back in that way. And I think that is the kind of, she has been an adult far too soon in her life. She does need to go back and have more childlike times before she goes too far.
Yeah. Which that actually ends up making it kind of a sweet scene, because he is just kind of this like, father figure character in the scene. So
yeah. And it immediately pivots here where she's like, okay, I'll go with you. Like, we're done.
Yeah, I want to go to LA tomorrow. Which, I think this scene does a good job of like, because up until this point, she's been this kind of wild character and how people have spoken about her. As soon as Hackman showed up, she was trying to have sex with him. Like, she's almost been like a caricature of just like this wild woman, right? Or this woman's even inappropriate to say, this wild girl, because she's 16 years old. And this scene kind of like hit really hard, because it was like, oh no, she is still a child. Like, she needs comforted. Like, this is sort of showing how vulnerable she actually is, no matter how wild she presents herself and how wild she explores things with people. This is absolutely kind of like humanizing her back to like what she really is. And I think that's important for what's going to come as the movie progresses after this.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and notably, Paula is missing from the bed when Hackman gets back to his cabin. So it's kind of left there. And the next day, when he's taking Deli home, he's saying goodbye. He just shares a look with Paula. It's a little awkward, He kind of.
We do also get a moment where the stepdad comes over to the car and has an awkward exchange with Deli. It makes much more sense in context of like what she knows, what he knows, all this stuff. But it's this moment where he's just like, so, you good now? And she just nods and is like, yeah, I'm good. And obviously, because of what we've been presented up to this point, we're expecting it to be something about like, you're not going to tell the cops about the weird stuff we did, right? But instead, it's about, you're not going to tell the cops about the very much worse stuff we did, right?
Depends on your definition of worse, I suppose. It's definitely more of a federal crime, I guess.
Oh yeah.
At the very least. So yeah, I mean, we just kind of cut back to LA, and he drops her off with the mom, and like, obviously he clearly doesn't think very much of the mother, right? But the big thing is that as he's leaving, James Woods' character's there, Quentin, and he's like, oh, I can't believe you brought her back. Do you have any idea what you've brought her back into? And Hackman just kind of walks away, and he gets in his car, but as he's driving off, you see the mum come out and grab her arm. You see whoever she's sleeping with, the mum, like her boyfriend comes out and like also grabs her, and they have this fight in the driveway as Hackman's walking away and just rolling up his window, but he's looking over as he's driving away, and I'm like, oh god, this is like, not knowing where it was going, I'm like, this is the hint of the rest of the movie, that there's something to fix here that he's going to do because he feels bad, because it's the right thing to do. There's a heroic thing to do here that for now he's refusing the call. He's like, he's turning his head from it, and he's going away, and he's going to feel guilty about this. Now, I did not predict that out of nowhere Deli was going to turn up dead. Like, that was a legitimate shock to me when the wife said, hey, what was the name of that girl you were looking for before? He's like, Deli, why? it was on the radio. She's dead. And I'm like, wait, what? And that's the pivot point. That's the like, oh, that's what this movie is now. Okay, we've got a whole different direction to go in. But it's so informed by all the people we've met and all of the opinions we've had on all those characters up until this point in the movie. And then obviously you've got this idea of Hackman both driving away when he sees that fight take place, but then also where he listens to the answering machine and Deli called him. And it's quite a playful message, but it did sound like she was about to say something she wanted to talk to him about, and then he turned it off because the wife showed up, and it seems like he never listened to the rest of that. I was actually quite surprised we never heard the rest of that later when he, maybe after the death, maybe he went back and listened to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking that would be something that after he spoke to Quentin, because Quentin basically says the information. He says, like, here's what it is. I think he would have gone back and checked the message at that point, but we just never get that. No, this is the moment that in watching the movie, I felt like had to have been the knight's move stuff. The idea of the chess game of this is the point where he could have ended it earlier, but now he's starting to make sacrifices. It's like we have to put the king in check. He starts losing pieces and things start falling apart until eventually, does he end up winning in the end? Nah.
I mean, he survives, so kinda. It's really interesting because it hits hard when you find out she's dead because it's genuinely a surprise, and all of a sudden you're playing back in your head how the mother was with her, how the stepdad was with her, how Quentin was with her, like everyone that we knew. And obviously because Paula was intimate with Hackman, I'm like, oh, she's a suspect as well because we like her too much, compared to the others. So, where are we going with this? And obviously you're thinking, was she murdered? And it kind of turns out she was in a sense, but obviously the immediate thing we get is more, there was an accident and she was a stunt woman on set. She was in the passenger seat of the stunt car. Before we get to that though, we should probably mention that there was like some significant wife advancements during this little intermediate period before the death.
Yeah, pretty much the moment he gets back, he goes and breaks into the affair partner's home, just sits there, pets his cat for a while, has a drink, and then turns on the stereo, to which they come down and they're like, what the hell are you doing here, man? And he's like, get out of here, Marty, I don't want to talk to you. And then he talks to the wife and kind of just says, I'm getting out of the business. I'm selling my own PI business and I'm joining the agency. And she's like, that's great. Was that for me? And he's like, no, it was for me. And she's like, then why do you want to tell me? And he's like, I don't know. Bye. And just walks out and leaves.
Yeah. And it's when she comes to his place, because we see a quick scene of him going to the baseball game with like the stunt coordinator guy and the other guy that he met earlier on. And
we find out that stunt coordinator guy, Joey, also slept with the mom.
Yeah,
well.
She definitely got around for sure.
Yes.
And then the wife comes to see him at his office where he's packed some stuff up and he's eating some ice cream, and says, "Oh, you're really ending this." And basically, this is where it kind of is more implied heavily, this idea that when he's on a case, like he's away a lot, if not like in a different state, but he's he's mentally away and like he's obsessed with the cases when he's on a case, and that's left her feeling alone. And they kind of just end up kissing, like they end up having this kind of reconciliation in the scene, and that leads to the scene where they're lying in bed and he starts opening up about what happened with his father, where he did find him but he never met him. He saw him sitting on a bench. He kept his distance, watched this old man struggling, and ultimately decided to never actually interact with him. And she gets a little, I mean, not in the sense where she's like ready to break up again, but she gets a little upset. It's like, why didn't you never tell me this? Like, why?
Like he keeps on just playing it off. He just keeps on being like, no big deal. But she like forces him like on the bed, just like, hey, talk to me. What's the real reason why you didn't do this? And he does admit that it basically just came down to shame.
Yeah. It's like he's obviously had trouble being vulnerable, like up until this point, and like maybe he's finally starting to kind of, maybe he's going through this and seeing what this other family's like and wanting to not be them, like wanting to, because there's a line earlier on where he says when they're still fighting, he's like, oh, this happens to tons of couples where someone cheats, so that people hire me to find these people all the time. And she's like, yeah, but not to us. not to us. Like, this shouldn't have happened to us. So this felt like, again, this idea of like this stuff could have been avoided. Down, you know, not just because of one decision, but just more an ongoing sort of character set of flaws between both of them. So, but yeah, so he's kind of back with the wife again by the time the death thing's announced, and
yeah, the wife is the one who tells him. The wife's the one who gets out of the car and just like, hey, you might want to know this. Our plot's pretty much done. Go into your third act, solve the murder mystery. Yeah,
but I wouldn't say it so flippantly, because I actually think it coming from her, like, makes it feel like we find it like he does, because like, she has got nothing to do with that case, but coming from her makes it feel more real. It's like, oh no, it's on the radio, you've heard it. Like, you're not someone who knows her who would like know to lie about it. Like, it has to be true.
Yeah.
So
it goes back to that conversation about like, where were you when Kennedy got shot? It's that idea of like, he's going to remember where he was at when he found out this young girl that he just spent like seemingly at least 2 or 3 days with, and like going back cross country as well. Like, this is something that he cared deeply about, and then she just ended up dead. Especially with the idea of that moment of hesitation when he was driving away. Like, he's the one who kind of doomed her into this life.
Yeah,
or death, I should say.
He crushes his toast and jam sandwich, I think he was having. Which I only remember because he crushes it in his hand and the jam kind of oozes like out of his, and I was like, oh, his hand's all sticky now. Like, that's just one of the things I noticed.
It matches his soul, Pete. His soul is sticky.
So, you know, he goes to the set and talks to the stunt coordinator. It turns out the stunt coordinator was actually the driver of the car that she was in, and he's pretty banged up. He's got like a big, you know, cast on his arm. He's got the what would you call the support thing as well that holds it up? Like, he's got one of those
strut.
Yeah, whatever. But he's pretty banged up, and he looks like he's feeling guilty. And they're watching the footage of it happen, and Hackman's like paying attention to it, and he's immediately thinking, "Oh, did that Quentin guy like set up the car? Did he do something that made this happen?" And like the stunt coordinator guy's like, "Look, this is my fault. I was driving. This is me being a failure. This is not on anyone else. This was not a murder." Although turns out later it may have been a murder. But there's a reason why he doesn't want him looking into it too much. But you know, Hackman of course starts peeling away. He wants to know more. He goes back to see the mum, for example, and this is one of the scenes where the direction is so good, because the mum's by the pool, she's sunbathing, which already feels weird. Like you're sunbathing like a day after, 2 days after your daughter died in a horrific stunt accident. But she's sunbathing, and Hackman comes in, and the pool's kind of like down a set of stairs. It's like on like a sort of lower, not, I don't know if you call it a balcony because it's kind of on a hill, but you know, it's like a big balcony the pool's on, and it's like down some stairs. So he's standing up at the sort of patio looking down. So he's literally looking down on her the entire scene. It's such a good visual representation of how he thinks of her right now. And like, so much of the scene is shot over his shoulder looking down at her, so it really emphasizes that viewpoint. And it's that, and she's at a distance. It's not like they're like a few feet away. She's a good 20 feet, 30 feet maybe even, down next to this pool, and she's yelling up at him and saying, "Don't you judge me," you know, all that kind of thing, because he's asking questions.
He's basically coming at her and just kind of accusing her of like, you're not, it doesn't seem like you're mourning very well. And she's like, who are you to judge how I mourn? Like, I lost my stepdaughter. Like, this is entirely up to me how I mourn. And like, it continues for maybe like 30 seconds until finally he's like, and now you get all the money, don't you? And she's like, excuse me? You just want to go ahead and say that quiet part out loud, I guess?
Yeah. And basically he's like, yeah, I don't think much of you, Mrs. Iverson. I don't think much of you at all.
I will say she gives a good performance here where she's clearly supposed to be drunk, she's whatever, but she kind of does open up and lets him know, like, yeah, no, she got handed like this trust fund. She didn't have to do anything. I was struggling as an actress, literally on my knees for half the men in this town trying to make it. So forgive me if I'm not too upset that she died, but I didn't do it.
Yeah, well, she also adds on, like, hey, I will cry for her, but I'll do it when I'm on my own. I won't do it in front of you. And then she actually does sort of start going over to the edge of the balcony and starts sort of like clearly crying, but she's got her back turned so you can't see her. So it's like, again, this idea of like her projecting one thing, but, you know, that doesn't mean that there's not feelings happening underneath, which just makes all of this much harder, right? Because it's hard to judge. So, he then starts to put some things together. He goes after Quentin again, tries to throw him around, and starts to like put some pieces together.
Yeah, Quentin's the one who basically says, he's like, look, I didn't mess with the car, I didn't do anything like that, but didn't she tell you that the guy in the airplane was the stuntman with the weird laugh, the creepy guy from earlier on? He's the one who was dead there. And obviously, as the viewer, we're sitting there like, that's what was on the voicemail. She was trying to tell him that, but was stopped because he had to eat ice cream and make out with his wife.
Well, yeah, hold on a second. Yeah, this is the one plot point I'm a little confused on, actually, though, is when the stuntman Elman dies, because I don't think it's clear, or at least I didn't catch it in the movie. Like, it's kind of implied that he already died before her death, because she knew about his death, seemingly, in some capacity.
Yeah, he was the dead body they found in the airplane that the Coast Guard was supposed to come check out.
Oh, of course. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Well, no, I didn't understand that. I think I was confused at first because I didn't know what his name was, and then I got really iffy. But I understood that there was a connection between, like, because obviously the thing Hackman pieces together here is that he worked with the stepdad character, right? And that plane in Florida in the water was probably him, and that's where he kind of connects all these things together. There was just like a sort of like section here though where I was like, who is the what is this name they keep saying? Like, I didn't remember that was the creepy stuntman, and eventually I just kind of said it must be him because there's no one else in the movie it could be in terms of like who had a name. So yeah, but it did throw me for a little bit when they started talking about him being dead.
Yeah. No, I get that. I had the IMDb open as I was watching it, so when they said Elman, I just glanced over and was like, oh, okay, that guy. Got it.
That's fair. So Hackman's on the way back to Florida, but there is a scene at the airport with his wife first where she's basically saying, hey, just like all this, whatever you found out, just tell the police, let them go deal with it. Like, you can turn this over now. And he's just not willing to do it. He doesn't like get angry. He doesn't like yell at her or anything. He just kind of like calmly is like, just doesn't say anything. He doesn't say that he's going to agree to that because he has to go do this. And she doesn't like, it doesn't end like a heartbreaking thing where she's like, oh, I'm going to leave you if you go. He just, because he kind of admits, but before he leaves, he's like, hey, I know that when I'm on a case, like I often leave you alone in like one way or another. And when that happens, we're both lonely and we both get tempted. And he makes it clear, I mean both of us, which is maybe, now, whether or not that means he ever did anything before Paula, I think it's unclear, but at the very least, he's owning up to it because of that.
Yeah, and she is just like, I know. Like, I know exactly what you mean. You don't have to spell it out for me. I get that you also have cheated. So let's just... And honestly, like you said it, the way that he leaves, it feels like, as much as she doesn't want him to, they are in a better place.
Yes.
And it feels like when they leave, he's going to be able to come back and they're going to be able to pick up this marriage. It's not just going to fall apart more.
I like that because it felt kind of unique, actually. I feel like most movies would... This would be the end of the marriage. Like, she would say, if you go, we're done. But he would do it anyway because that's the big dramatic thing. He's like, it's like, like an alcoholic taking a drink out of the bottle again, Like, no, I'm giving up everything I've built up, even though I can have success, I can have the happy life, but no, I'm going back to the bottle.
Yeah, but no, it's this idea of, we just saw him, the case was done. He was willing to fix his wife, but then the moment the case rears its head again, he's forced to choose, and he chooses the case. Like, going back to the bottle.
But she's more willing to accept it now, and at the very least, we can support him as an audience, even if it does feel like he's making a slightly unhealthy, obsessive choice, because we understand why he feels guilty. We understand that he feels responsible for her death in some capacity because he ignored. He saw the moves, he didn't take them, and now everything's chipping away in this back third.
And I mean, even if it wasn't even just the guilt over her dying, I think it also goes back to that core character of, he needs the whole story. He needs to see it through all the way to the end. And if he doesn't understand why it was happening, it's not done for him yet.
Yeah, because I kind of believe that he's still giving up his agency, when he comes back. I don't think any of this changes that he's going to do that. It's just a case of, no, he has to go and finish this. So... Yeah, he goes to the place. He almost immediately finds James Woods dead in the dolphin pool. he's like, oh well, that's already hammed.
I like how it's in the obviously the implication is he was killed and dumped into the dolphin pool, but part of me is just thinking it's like a Dr. Evil trap of, oh, we're going to trap him in a pool with the dolphins and they're going to kill him.
I think that's you retrofitting some silly things into it that weren't in anyone's head at the time. And then, he confronts the stepdad, and Paula's there too, and it's kind of unclear, is she on things with him, is she not, right? It's unclear in the scene. And the stepdad kind of like acts kind of dumb to everything, but does obviously make that move where he drives the boat a little bit to put Hackman off his feet, so he drops his gun, he tackles him, there's a little bit of a fight, and the stepdad gets knocked out because he runs at him and hits his head on like the beam or the pole or whatever it is. So he's knocked out, and Hackman's like, hey, like, what was it he's smuggling? Because obviously the plane being involved, this plane coming with the stunt guy on it, what were they doing that was illegal? What is this thing they're trying to cover up?
He immediately is like, it's drugs, isn't it? We're doing drugs. You're in Florida. It has to be drugs. And she's like, nope. And then we don't flash back, but immediately for the audience's sake, we go back to the beginning of the movie for a scene we didn't mention, where he's at the agency, and the agency guy is saying, hey, check out all these cool Mexican artifacts I have. They're worth a whole hell of a lot of money, but the Mexican government is very upset about people taking them, so they're only going to appreciate in value.
So that's what they've been smuggling, different pieces of this big artifact that they want to sell on the black market or something, I guess. Sure. But, I mean, what they're smuggling is not really that important. It's more just that they were willing to, kill for it, and more importantly, kill the girl to cover it up,
Yeah, so I think, maybe you can correct me if I'm getting anything wrong here, but what I think the overarching story here was that pretty much everybody on the Hollywood side of things, except for Deli and Quentin, were in on this. They were in on whatever this was, along with the Florida people. They were trying to make this smuggling thing happen. The stuntman went down in his plane, which obviously was unexpected. And when Deli saw it, obviously she's now aware of what's going on there. She's being told, hey, don't tell anybody that he died. Don't tell him what he was doing down there. So now she has to stay quiet. She ended up telling Quentin, and then Quentin came here to force a confrontation because obviously they killed Deli because she knew too much. And that's where we end up now with just these two left. And one other special character we'll get to in a minute.
Yeah, also the idea that Deli, maybe because she made that phone call to Harry, perhaps maybe what the final straw was where they said we have to kill her. Maybe it was something else.
Yeah, there was knocking on the door in the voicemail, so she was probably caught leaving that.
Yeah, so maybe that's what they're killing her for. But it's I mean, there's a really nice payoff here, because obviously the stepdad's left unconscious. Gene Hackman says, "Take me out to where the loot is," because again, they've got a marker for it. Turns out the marker she left earlier was to just so the stepdad could go get the stuff out the plane before anyone finds the plane. And they go out there. And she, he's like, hey, you were just keeping me busy that night, right? Like when you had sex with me, you were just keeping me busy while he came out here and got that stuff. And it's kind of like, I let myself be intimate with you, because it wasn't just getting laid, right? Like he clearly was feeling something in that scene, So she's like, okay, you can't dive, I can. I'll go down and get it. And like, there's a bit of like a trust thing here. It's like, well, I mean, we're too far away from the land really for you to go anywhere, but like, who knows? Maybe you'll like try something. But she goes down, and there's just this like minutes of waiting. It feels like minutes anyway, of Hackman just standing in the back of the boat looking around, and you're just waiting, and it's kind of eerie. It's daylight by this point, but it's still kind of eerie. And then a plane starts coming in, and you're thinking, oh, the stepdad's got a plane that he can fly. We've seen him, land the plane a couple times. Is he going to has he got a gun maybe? Is he going to try and ram the boat? Is he coming after Hackman? And all you ever get from inside the plane is a shot looking out, and then eventually, after the plane's went past a couple times and Hackman's like realizing that it's circling, you see like a hand pull out an Uzi, and you're like, oh shit. And it fires, and it hits Hackman in the leg, and he's sort of ducking for cover. So we get actually kind of a tense big set piece here at the end, which is really well done actually. And it gets quite brutal because when Paula eventually comes back up and she's got the artifact on like a little dinghy that comes up, and she's like coming up, she's like can't hear because she's got the she's underwater,
partially submerged and all that. Yeah.
And the plane's like coming down behind her, and Hackman's trying to like wave at her to like tell her to move. So we actually get this pretty brutal moment where the plane lands into her face.
Yeah.
And it's just a couple of quick cuts, but you just get like a bit of visceral violence as the plane lands. And then the plane basically crashes into the side of the boat and goes down. But the payoff, the mother of all payoffs, as much as I don't necessarily think the character reveal is that like exciting from who the character is, I think the way this has been set up visually and how it's shot is so good, I don't give a shit. Because we set up earlier on this view in the bottom of the boat where you can see someone swimming underneath. Mm-hmm. And we also set up something that could distinguish a character without clearly being able to see their face. So Hackman's looking over the side of the boat and he can't quite see who it is, so he goes to the middle of the boat, he looks under the glass, and we see like the plane sinking, and just sort of try to get out of the cockpit, we see a person. We can't make out the face, but what we can make out is the cast, the white cast that's up in like the L shape, and it hits you, and I'm like, oh my god, they set up this view, they set up that cast. This was such a good visual payoff, and the movie basically ends with Hackman like crawling with a bullet wound, getting the boat started to like go back to the mainland, and that's how the movie just goes to credits at that point. But it's such a downer of an ending where even though he survived, he's probably going to go back and like live the rest of his life with his wife. He lost the chess match, right? He's going to have to live with the defeat of the chess match for the rest of his life. That's what this is.
Yeah, I will say I think it is actually a little bit more dour of an ending. I think it might be a bit more of a, because if they hold on that final shot of the ship as he's pushed the engines forward, it starts driving, and he gets angry and like he kind of like pounds the seat that he's on, and he's like, you bastards, what did you do? And he stops moving. I don't think he's dead at this point, but when they hold on that shot of the ship, it is immediately apparent that it doesn't move straight forward. It curves around. It is in like a turning motion. And I think the implication here is that he's not going to get back home. I think he's stuck in that position, because that would be the finality of the chess metaphor, is that he missed these things and he ended up losing the game because of it.
I see what you're saying. I think you're reading into it a little bit too much.
All right.
Because one, he's not dead. I don't see any reason why he won't get up to those controls and actually pilot it properly at some point. And
I mean, fairly, a shot through the leg, that can hit a major artery. He could bleed out.
I mean, he could. It's possible. I mean, maybe that is the implication for the ending. But honestly, that final shot where the boat's not really moving, I kind of just took as, like, I don't know, like, not an error. Like, that's maybe a bit of a harsh word, but like, just a sort of thing where they just didn't get a good shot of it moving. Kind of, I don't know.
I mean, I get what you're saying, that it seems like it's just something that's not supposed to have the implication. But for me, like, they were able to do so much with that plane and making it like have very clear like straight lines forward and all that. I think having a boat drive straight forward would have been a perfectly suitable thing to expect.
To me, I think he's going to get to the controls and get back. Not just because like I feel like I want a bit of happiness in the ending, but I think it's more the way he like puts his head down and like starts like punching the pillow or whatever it is and saying, "You bastards." I think that moment for me wasn't a, oh, I'm going to die and I'm upset about it. That moment to me was more like just how like of a scheme this was. He didn't even see who the villain was. He's pissed, like how much he was duped, how much he lost the game by, if you will, to go back to the chess metaphor. Right. And I think that's where I'm coming from with this ending, is it's more me reading his performance there than it is kind of like deducing based on like some of these like other details, which I think can be waived one way or the other depending on how you want to look at them.
Yeah. I mean, it comes down to whether or not you view the losing the chess game metaphor as he's not able to solve the case or he actually physically dies, both of which are a failure on the part of the character, both of which are him not being able to succeed in what he wants to do.
And I think my argument for why he's not dead here at the end and why he'll live with this is because that was the end of that conversation, is that you will live the rest of your life regretting that you never made those right moves. Like, for me, that's the cinch here, where he has to live with this.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the other part for it is that I've got open, the Wikipedia article, the IMDb synopsis, and all of them are saying the boat goes in circles. So it is something that at least other people have picked up on. But
it definitely goes in a circle at first, because he can only get to one of the sticks, because he's hitting it with like a fishing net or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then he can't reach the other one. So yeah, he can't control it to make it go in a straight line. But I didn't take that as it's hopeless that he'll ever get up to the controls and, figure it out. But I mean,
audience,
if I'm wrong,
I'm sure you've already watched the movie at this point. Let us know what you think.
I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But like, I just, to me, it makes more sense based on that earlier scene that he has to live with this, and it's thematically more exciting to me that he has to live with it. But I mean, whatever.
I mean, I guess I would view it even more as like a tragedy, though. If it wasn't so much he had to live with it if he did die there, because it is the implication of he was about to be able to start making things right with his wife. He was about to make these changes that he wanted in his life. It goes back to the idea of Deli as the character. Deli obviously was a wild child, did all that. It was the implication. I think it was actually the guy in the cast who said, right before she died, it seemed like she was turning her life around. It seemed like she was doing better. And so this is just enforcing those parallels with, you were about to do things right, but you missed it. You missed your shot.
No, I mean, he definitely keeps making the wrong moves, for sure. That's the whole point of the last third, is that he just keeps making the wrong moves despite the right moves being there. And I just don't think he needs to die for that point to be made, I think,
definitely not. Yeah.
I think the point is made without that, because he has to live with it. But I mean, I guess you can read it whatever you like. I don't know, I guess it was dour enough. I didn't need him to also die on top of it. Like, it's already kind of sad and tragic. The girl's dead, all these people are dead, like,
No, absolutely. I mean, the moment Deli dies, it's already just a tragedy.
Oh,
like, anybody else dying on top of that, it's like, well, this just sucks all the more.
All right, David, what are you rating Night Moves out of 10?
Like I said, this one just really got to me. I obviously, we talked about all the reasons why it's great in its own right, but I think more than anything, I was just kind of shocked at how engaged I really was, how engrossing all the characters were, and how the plots just kept sucking me in the whole way. It barely has a fault to really speak of. It is just a solid movie top to bottom, so I think I'm going to hit this one. I'm going to hit it with an 8.5. It's just really, really good, and I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can really say against it, other than maybe a couple of minor nitpicks that we've mentioned, is it's just that the story doesn't reach that special tier level, right? Everything in it is heavily enhanced by great writing, great acting, cinematography's on point. Like, every element is great. It's just that the story never reaches, this will be an all-timer because the story's also amazing. But, like,
right.
Yeah, it's great. It's a borderline excellent. So I think I agree with the 8.5. I think that's also what I'm giving it.
Yeah, I feel like there could have been something there if the big crime at the end was anything except smuggling these items. Like, that kind of feels like it is so out of left field. It's like, all right, well, sure, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, maybe even like just a better understanding of where Paula stood at the end. Like, because it's like, how much is she in line with the bad guys? Is she wanting to screw over Hackman again? We never really find out. I mean, obviously, the stuntman guy doesn't really care about her because he just flies into her. Yeah,
I guess you could say she's of two minds about it, and maybe three or four, depending on how hard that plane hit her.
That was weak sauce, David.
Thank you.
That was weak sauce. You should have heard the downright disturbing stuff he said on the ratings rundown
oh my God.
On Patreon.
I literally stood up, took off my pants. It was disgusting and yet at the same time glorious in its own right.
Yeah. And yeah, we probably should just add on once again after the rating here. yes, with the asterisks, someone who was under 18 is naked in this movie, and if that is something that you rightfully don't want to see, then fair enough.
Yes.
Have that warning. But yeah. So
Yep.
anywho, does it make the cut? I mean, I think clearly it does make the cut. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I guess I would say that obviously we've put forward enough things to say it doesn't get quite to a cut above. It's not quite at that level, but it comfortably makes the cut.
It makes the cut for sure. Yeah, there you go. So next time on the show, 70 Star season rolls on with a little film called 2 Minute Warning. So we're getting something that's a bit more high stakes tension, I think, next time. Because I believe this is about a sniper. But we'll find out next time on the show. So look forward to that. Otherwise, though, of course, you can support the show over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and get some bonuses. You can also do that via YouTube membership and get a lot of the same bonuses. Those include Ratings Rundown, which we do for both this and the Atomic Cinema Experiment, where me and David give like extra ratings for, visuals, sound, acting, script, that kind of thing. And the coveted Sexual Tension Award, which always makes us get really silly, to be honest, at the end of the segment.
Yes.
And then you also get access to Extra Reels, which is a bonus monthly show that we do where we review some of the worst things ever made. And let me tell you, the one that came out this month, in fact, this very week, I believe, assuming that I put it out when it's scheduled here,
yes,
is an all-timer. It's one of the funniest things we have watched for Extra Reels. So if that sounds of interest, then go check it out. And feel good for supporting and help keep the show coming forever and ever and ever and ever.
Every dollar you donate on Patreon is directed towards taking care of an ailing Scottish man.
I'm ailing?
I don't know. Seems like it.
Ailing?
Play into it. Get more dollars. The more you ail, the more dollars you get.
I'm dying. I'm dying. I know healthcare's free here, but ignore that. Help me.
Yeah. Nope.
Anyway, that's the show. Thank you for joining us. We do appreciate it. Keep watching movies. And if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.